We're going to start again. So we are here finishing. We're at the end of the first parak of Shemona Prakim, and so we saw yesterday the Rambam went through the different Chelkei HaNefesh, how these obviously on the Hagdoma that Nefesh Adam, Nefesh Achas, there are 5 different faculties, koiches of how the Nefesh expresses itself. The bottom one is we're going from the bottom up. So we have the nutritive soul, the sensitive soul. People wanted to know why I didn't use the word sensory instead of sensitive. You can use both of those. You could. They're interchangeable. I had a long conversation with ChatGPT this morning, which one is more appropriate. But that's a shmooze for a different time. So there's the sensitive. So you have the nutritive soul, the sensitive soul. What did we have afterwards? The imaginative. Then we have the appetitive, the desire. So basically, you have the inner mechanics, let's say, of how the nutrients, how a person grows and gets his nutrients, and how they get absorbed in the body, and how the digestive system works. And Shlomi helped me with the digestive system last night, 1:00 in the middle of the night. He was texting me gewaldige comments about the digestive system. And otherwise, you have the reproductive system. That is all in the basic nutritive aspect of the soul. And then you have the 5 senses, and that is the smell and touch and taste and sight and scent, all that. Then you have the imagination. So imagination, the Rambam split in 2. You have the way a person can bring up what he experienced through his senses, and then he could play around with reality and put a whole bunch of things together, even though if they naturally don't exist together, and they don't have to be able to exist together. And then we had the appetite. The appetite is the desires, the wants, what a person wishes and what he's afraid of, hate and love, and kinatayv v'koved and all that. Now we reached all the way to the top of the pyramid. So the 5th one is obviously what makes a person uniquely man, and that is the tachlis hashleimus, is to perfect and to really get to attain and really develop this highest koich. That is a chelik hasichli. Hu hakoich hanimtze la'adam. So now the Rambam's wording here is not easy. So let's just say what he says. So the highest of the 5 souls, you can speak of the five faculties of the soul, is reason, intellect, mind, call it however you want. And then the Rambam says that in this, what is this soul of reason, or whatever you want to call it? That is the place where a person attains knowledge, and where he not only attains the knowledge, but works through the knowledge that he understands. So the brain is at the same time the instrument, right? The instrument which you use to understand whatever you understand. It's also it's the storage, right? Because it's the vessel in which wisdom lies. So it is the instrument to attain wisdom. It's the vessel that contains the wisdom, and it is and meaning. So now you can acquire knowledge. You can now take the knowledge you acquired and reason with that, logically dissect and play around with it in your mind. And so it does both of these things at the same time. And then the Rambam splits it up in 2 separate. So there's 2 types of the 2 types of chokhmah, right? So there's practical wisdom, and then there's theoretical knowledge. So let's just see how he says it. Through the mind, he understands, and he reflects, and he attains the sciences and wisdom, and that also he can deduct, and he can analyze what is good and what is bad, right? And then the Rambam explains, and these And these different actions, we're talking about attaining wisdom and dissecting and all that. Chelik men masi, chelik yunis. Part of it, you have practical wisdom and you have theoretical wisdom. Hamasi also split into it. So now practical wisdom you can split into malachti and machshavti. Okay, so now you have two categories: practical and theoretical. The practical is split in two. You have impractical wisdom. You have technical wisdom, and then you have also, you could say, speculative wisdom. Let's explain what that means. Let's leave theoretical aside. When we're talking about practical wisdom, we're talking about knowledge. Let's just, instead of wisdom, let's call it knowledge. Practical technical knowledge would be, you're a baker, you want to know how to bake bread, and that guy knows how to navigate a boat, and that guy knows how to, even a doctor. You're talking about practical being a metalsmith, right? That is practical knowledge. Practical knowledge is you acquire, that's in the brain, because the brain is what's going to teach you how metal works and what instruments you need to use, and just technically to figure out things. That is the most, you would probably say, the most basic knowledge, right? That in the world of, we're looking at in the brain and reason and intellect, this is the lowest level. The lowest level is just practically how the brain is what teaches you how to work with how to work with just technically how to figure things out. So that's technical knowledge. Then so that is in the Chelik HaMasi, right? So he says, let's skip just the union, we'll come back to that. Hamalachti, that's what we just spoke about. Nagorus is carpentry, Avodas Adama is farming, Refuah is medicine, even though medicine is a very choshev thing, but it's a very technical science. Vasaponos is navigation. And then in this practical knowledge, step 2 maybe is even more advanced, and that is already that's more introspective and theoretical, and that is now that, let's say, you know how to navigate, you know how to navigate a ship in the deep seas. Right? So now you're going to figure out when is a good time to do it, when is not a good time to do it. You're going to figure out even though I know how to do it, should I do it or should I not do it? Is it a good idea? Is it a good investment? These things are, again, in the area of practical knowledge. This is, so the lowest level is just how you do the job. The second level is, once I know how to do the job, is it a good idea to do it? When is it a good idea to do it? How is it a good idea to do it? That is already the second step. That is sort of the speculative aspect of practical knowledge. Fine. So that is, again, we split the highest level of a person is his intellect, is his mind, is his reason. And in that itself, we identified the lowest level. So the lowest level is practical knowledge, and in practical knowledge, one step higher would be the using reason and to apply, and when to apply and how to apply, when to act on this, whatever you want to, okay. So that is the lower thing. Let's go back because we skipped. And then you have theoretical knowledge. And then there's theoretical knowledge. Theoretical knowledge is science. And what is science? Says the Rambam, understanding the things that don't change. That's sort of his words that he chooses to describe science. And that is physics and metaphysics. Sort of. You could probably say that these are the two things that he has in mind. And that, physics and metaphysics, and that is stam chochmah, right? These are things that don't change. They're not about here today. That's understanding the world, understanding the universe, understanding the beyond, right? Understanding the soul, anything. We're talking about higher knowledge, which that is sort of what's going to bring a person intensely closer to their Rebbeinu Shalom. What we're going to talk about in advanced levels is that is theoretical knowledge, right? Theoretical knowledge is not that's negeya for you today. It's just understanding the world you live in. What is it made of? How does it work? How does it function? And then you understand how does a person work, and how does the nefesh work, and how does the Rebbeinu Shalom work? And all these things are theoretical knowledge. Beautiful. So now we split a person into 5. The soul of a person has 5 different faculties, and going from bottom up, from nutritive, sensitive, imaginative, you see how we're getting more, loftier and more dakistic, right? So we're going out of the plant life, the beast life, and then you have already imagination. Maybe an animal has that aspect because the animal does remember what felt good yesterday and what didn't, because it acts on, so that, but that is sort of, an animal probably doesn't have the ability to create its own images in its mind, right? So I would say half of the imaginative soul an animal has, because an animal could remember the food he ate yesterday, because that's what he's probably going to look for today. And if you, that's the way you could train animals, right? By, carrots and sticks. That's the whole idea. So it does have part of the imaginative soul, but the other part of putting abstract things together, and that Pashtas animal doesn't have. And then we have the conscious soul, sort of the what we saw yesterday, the feelings and the emotions and the appetitive soul that we call that is already uniquely human. And then we have obviously the mind. Okay, let's move on. This one soul that a person has, that we just said what the parts that make it up are, this is mamish a tremendous yesod. And so this is the Rambam getting to the Nakuda. And he says you should know like this. And I think we should just, for once, explain this a little better, even though we're running very short on time. We should, we have to explain the Chomer and Tzura, because, you see it in Svarim, these are terms thrown around. These are Greek terms, Greek scientific terms. And, you have it from there, you have it already. It has a tremendous hashpah, and it got into our lingo, Maral specifically. But so the idea of Chomer and Tzura is that everything in the world is made out of two basic elements. There is matter and there's form. Now, matter is if you have clay, right? That's the basic thing. You have clay, you have a clump of clay. So now this is matter, it's raw matter, you can do with it whatever you want. Now comes a person, and the person says, okay, I'm going to make something out of it. I'm going to make a bowl out of this. So now there's clay, and then when he makes it a bowl, now that bowl, you could look at it and say, okay, nothing changed, it's clay, but so the matter is the clay, and the form is what gives it an actual physical form. But not only a physical form, it gives it an identity, and it gives it right, because when you're going to have, let's say, a bowl, and then the bowl is going to break. Do you have clay? Do you have a clump of clay, or do you have a broken bowl? Right. What makes it a broken bowl, and a broken bowl, and not a clump of clay, is what is the form. Right. So the form is what gives it what gives it its identity. It gives it its purpose. Exactly. It gives it its purpose, its identity, and even its physical structure. Right. So you have the physical structure. So, and that you could apply to everything in the world. Right. If you have a table, the matter of it is the wood, the metal that it's made out of, and then the form of it is the person that decided he's going to make it a table. So now, even when he had the wood and all these separate elements, if you look at it from the side, all these things, matter-wise, they're all a bunch of raw ingredients. But in my mind, I gave this wood and this metal now a form, and this is an unassembled table, and now I'm going to make it a table, and if I break it in half, it's going to be a broken table. And you have all raw ingredients. You have a cake. Usually you have 1,000 different ingredients. That's all raw matter. And now when you come and you say you're going to make a cake, and even after you made a cake, you could still say, well, that's just flour and sugar mixed together. It's not flour and sugar mixed together. It's a cake. Right? What makes this a unique product and what gives it its identity and its in its purpose is the form. Right? So what the Rambam says is, and the entire world of Greek science is not an entire thing, but a tremendous part is based on this idea. Now, the Rambam says is that a person, all 4 aspects of a person, all these 4 different souls, the nutritive and the imaginative and the appetitive, everything is pure matter. A person is a clump of matter, and what makes a person uniquely a person, what gives it a form, what makes it a person and not an animal, what makes a man and not beast, is the mind. So if you have a person that has all the key ingredients, but he doesn't develop his mind and he doesn't have a mind, then that person is not a person. It's just like a clump of clay that's not a bowl and it's not anything. It's nothing. So if a person doesn't actualize and doesn't develop and doesn't live based on his mind, if you have a person that lives based on his animalistic instinct, then he's not a person. Because what makes a person, the tzura, the form of a person, what gives it its purpose and its identity is the mind. Because everything else an animal has. So if you have a person that doesn't develop his mind, then that person is just matter. And the matter of a person is an animal, right? It's just the same matter, right? It's sort of the same. So let's read this inside. That is matter. And that's the form. And if a person is not going to attain it, he's not going to develop his form, his mind, then the whole entire human is all for naught. Because the entire reason why you are uniquely man is for the tachlis of the brain. And if you never develop that part, you might have as well been an animal. And that's the pasuk that without das nefesh lo toiv. There's nothing there. There's no toiv. It doesn't have a form. And nefesh that doesn't have das lo toiv. It's lo toiv. And this is a gewaldige yesod. And what's interesting is like this. The Rambam says, so the Rambam says, this is beautiful. This is a tremendous sugya. And this sugya of a person's das, and as far as he develops it, that's how much man he's going to be, and that's how much uniquely human he's going to be, as much as he develops his form and not as matter. That is very important. But that is not the sugya for Pirkei Avos. Because Pirkei Avos, we're not talking about mind. Mind is when we're there already. We're not there yet. We want to work on our midas. We want to work on our machine that we should be able to attain wisdom and knowledge and reason and intellect. And we should be able to be a vessel for that. So we're not going to talk about what makes the das of a person so special, because we're not here in Masechtas Deis. We're here in Masechtas Avos, and Masechtas Avos is midas. So what he says is, that belongs in the Sefer Nevuah that we're going to write. The Rambam has a plan to write Sefer Nevuah. He's never going to write it. He's going to include it in Mar Nevuchim. So this is sugyas that belong in Mar Nevuchim. This is obviously very far from now. But so this is where we finish the first parak. The first parak is where the Rambam sets up the anatomy of the soul. The anatomy of the soul is 5 different madregas going from the bottom up until we reach the seichel, and that is the tachlis, and that seichel is, as the Rambam finishes off, that is the tzura, that is the form for the entire machine, that is what makes a person Adam, and gambal das nefesh lo toiv, but, which is very important, as important the seichel is, this is not our sugya now. Because our sugya is to understand the nefesh, to understand the soul in its entirety, to work on the midas, to refine it, and to make it an operating machine that we should be able to eventually attain that wisdom. So that's going to be tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem, Perek Beis.